No problem in our time is a fraction so important as that of the arms competition between the United States and the USSR. It deeply involves economic and political life. It could bring all life to an end in hours. In this program, I propose to take a cool look at this competition and not spend much time assessing blame. Both sides concentrate sufficiently on that now. My only assumption will be that all people, regardless of ideology, want to live. What is the nature of this terrible competition? What faith sustains it? Or what ideas? How have the ideas changed with the years? And what is the escape? We come naturally for an answer to the United States Air Force Academy, to this spacious and glittering campus, which is at the marvelously sharp line where the Great Plains end and the Rockies begin. The Air Force is the primary custodian of the American side of the competition, and its campus is the natural bridge between the ideas and the action. The sense of U.S.-Soviet competition proceeds, I believe, from one of two ideas. The older of these ideas we may call the official faith, and it's manifested here at the Academy. This faith holds that the competition is the result of an irreconcilable conflict between inherently hostile systems. Their communism, here capitalism, their authoritarian discipline, here liberty, their atheism, avowed materialism, here faith, spiritual values. The Air Force Academy Chapel here at Colorado Springs is, in a way, a metaphor of this faith. The controversy that its highly engineered architecture has aroused, I find myself admiring it, suggests the dispute that this faith engenders. In this faith, no reconciliation is possible. Two economic and political systems are in enduring conflict. Those who believe in accommodation between the systems do not understand the depths of this difference. They are naive and thus open to the cupidity, the cheating of the other side. But there is a second, more recent view. The military forces in each country exist in a symbiotic relationship with those who develop and manufacture the arms. Each lives off the other, each contributes to the other's growth. And the United States is then locked into a symbiotic relationship with the Soviet Union, and vice versa. In this relationship, each country, by the weapons it invents and acquires, provides the need for the other power to do likewise and more. Each works with the other to ensure that the competition is self-perpetuating. No faith sustains this competition. It's a trap. Mankind is its victim. There are many ways that the history of the last 30 years might be written. I see it overwhelmingly as a movement from a conflict in faith to an acceptance of the trap. All of us in such matters are the products of our education. Mine began at the end of World War II in Berlin. I knew Berlin before World War II. For reasons that seemed impressive at the time, I came here in 1938 to study Hitler's land and agricultural policy. My next glimpse of the city was when the American forces moved in during the summer of 1945. One thought of the landscape of the moon, and it was a phrase that came to many lips. When eventually we saw the landscape of the moon, we learned that it was more austere, more chaste, and much less alarming. In pre-war times, this was the Hausvaterland, a famous conglomerate of restaurants and cabarets. Each of the different watering places featured the music and costume and food and alcohol of a different part of the Reich. In 1945, pretty much all of Berlin proper looked like this. Buildings are a metaphor of the suffering that goes with war. The experience of horror is by people, but that does not persist. Soon it cannot be seen. Only in structures does it really endure. In Berlin, the horror of war endures here, endures most widely in what was once a music hall. That horror is no small thing. That summer, I was at a military headquarters near Frankfurt, where we were studying the effects of the air attacks on Germany. One morning, one of my colleagues, George W. Ball, later Undersecretary of State and much else, called to remind me that the Big Three would soon be meeting at Potsdam to decide the future of Germany. He was not a modest man, and he thought we should attend. I noted as a difficulty that we hadn't been invited. George said that to allow hurt feelings to keep us away would only compound that error. We flew to Berlin, went to the conference compound, and began operations with an excellent lunch at the senior officers' mess. My concern with reparations, economic policy, currency reform deepened, and in 1946 I became the State Department bureaucrat in charge of economic affairs in the occupied lands, principally Germany. A less powerful job than it sounds. I came back to Berlin. By 1946, two parties had begun to take form. One party very much wanted to get along with the Russians. They, I think I should say we, because I belong to that party, saw very little hope for the future of the world unless there was peace between the two powers. And there were certain things to encourage us. When we met socially with the Russians, we saw how passionate was their desire for peace. Some of our senior military people were similarly moved. They had had experience of war, and they'd had enough of it. But there was a second party. We met almost every evening for discussion in the big villas of the Nazis and the former German rich. The bombs had taken the houses of the poor. Now the Allied occupation took those of the affluent. This second group regarded our hopes as ridiculously soft-headed. Some were only showing how tough-minded they could be. But some spoke out of a knowledge of Stalin, a genuine concern for his intentions. Eastern Europe was gone. Surely Soviet ambitions extended to Western Europe, a far greater prize. Some were conservatives who had heard of Marx' World Revolution, and the revolution could now be seen just across the lake in East Berlin. Present, too, were the pathologically belligerent, who, like the poor, are always with us. Some had found the war an exciting thing, and better another than going back to Indianapolis. Present, too, unless one is gifted in evading the obvious, was economic interest. The war had provided jobs, started and expanded the factories, better military tension than back to the Great Depression. No one, or anyhow not many, openly argued that the economic gains of the war should be